Rick with AGI Short Track. We're here today going over installation of our Field Data Manager in our Wireless Intelligent Soil Probe version 2, our WISP 2. We've unpackaged everything here for a complete system, so I kind of want to go over the components you'll receive and tools that you'll need for proper installation. First thing I want to talk about is this long gray fiberglass pole. This is for mounting our gray antenna to. That gray antenna there is for communications with our soil probes that are out in the field. You'll get a silver engineering stake, which you'll pound all the way into the ground and leave about a foot left out. And then our green mounting pole will slide into this silver pole, and this is what will hold the FDM upright out in the field. And then components that'll be being assembled to this green pole. You have your FDM control box, your anemometer, which gives you your wind speed and wind direction. You'll have a solar panel. You'll have your FDM weather station, FDM mounting or antenna mounting bracket, FDM hardware kit, which is going to be individually marked bags with each piece of hardware that you're going to need per component that you're mounting to the green pole. You get wiring harnesses. This white antenna here is for cellular transmission of data to our platform. And that's going to be the components that you have for the FDM. Now we're moving on to our Wireless Intelligent Soil Probe version 2, our WISP 2. Inside the package you'll get a node case, a battery case, your actual soil probe itself, a gray mounting pole, and a mounting stake, which will be pounded into the ground, and our gray pole will slide over top of this pole, which will hold the WISP 2 upright in the field. And then you'll also receive a marking flag, which will be used for out in the field, so you can see where your WISP 2 is at when your crops are grown. Next, we'll talk about tools that you'll need for proper installation. It'll come with a slide hammer. This is for more so of removing the soil probes. So you won't need this for installation, but we will show you how this is operated. Next, you'll need a 9/16 socket and ratchet, a 7/16 wrench, a 9/16 wrench, a pair of dikes, torpedo level, magnetic preferably if you're working by yourself. You'll need a small hammer for installing the soil probe out in the field. And you'll need a sledgehammer for installing the mounting post for your green pole out in the field also. And one thing I want to talk about when we're installing this mounting pole in the ground out in the field, we want to make sure that, so that we don't burr the edges up and that green mounting post won't slide down in here, you have to have some sort of edge protection. Whether you have something like this laying around, or you use a 2x4 to put over it, or one possible option is if you pound it in the ground, you burr it all up, take a battery powered Sawzall with you and just cut and make a new fresh opening so that the pole will slide down in there free of burrs. All right, moving on, what we're going to do is we're going to start mounting our components to the mounting pole. If you're working by yourself, you want to find a way that you can get this mounting pole to be held still for you, so that way when you're mounting the components, it's not rolling around all over the place. The very first component we're going to mount to the pole is going to be our antenna mounting bracket. I've already started here. I used the U-bolt that came with the hardware, and it comes with washers, lock washers, and nuts. So when you're putting the washers on, you put a washer, then a lock washer, then a nut down, and then take your 7/16 wrench and tighten her down. Not overly tight, just snug enough to where the antenna is not going to be flopping around all over the place. If you tighten it down too much, you'll end up smashing down on the bracket here. Next, you're going to need your 9/16 wrench and your socket and ratchet. You're going to take your antenna mounting bracket, you'll leave one washer on the side here. It'll be a washer, lock washer, and then a nut. that's it for the mounting bracket for your antenna. All right, next piece we're going to install is going to be our anemometer, which is our wind speed and wind direction. When you're assembling this, it's important to remember that these components have to face a certain direction. So anything that's dealing with antennas, that's east to west. Anything solar powered is going to be facing the south of the pole, and that's in the direction of which you're installing this pole. So you want to make sure you know your cardinal direction of where south is. And then your wind speed and your anemometer is going to be facing north. You're using the U-bolt came in your hardware package, marked anemometer. You'll pull this anemometer all the way up to where it's touching your actual antenna mounting bracket. And again, it'll go washer, lock washer, and then nut. And that's important too if you're installing this out in the field. You want to make sure that you're doing it where the grass isn't too high, because I just dropped that nut there. I've been out in the field, and when I drop hardware I tend to lose it. So make sure you're doing it in an area, assembling it in an area where you won't lose your hardware. Again, it's washer, lock washer, then the nut. Seven 16th wrench, ratchet wrench. Again, make sure you're sliding this bracket all the way up to the top of where it's touching your antenna mounting bracket. You'll tighten this down, and again, you don't want to over tighten it because it's just plastic. It'll crack the plastic itself. So you want to tighten it down to where it's not sliding up and down on the mounting pole itself. That's it for mounting your anemometer. All right, next piece we're going to talk about is our weather station for our field data manager. We're going to do a little bit of prep before we mount it to our mounting pole. There's going to be a bag with parts that come with this. You're going to go ahead and open it up, and it's got a debris cage that comes with it. And all you're going to do is cone facing up and put it down inside the weather station here. And there's two little pins sticking up, and you'll twist them into place like that. Next, you're going to install your bird sticks. You definitely want to make sure that you get these on there, because if not, the birds will be using this as a bird bath on the inside of here. All right, bird stakes are installed. Next, we're gonna take this rain cone off of here. It just twists counterclockwise. Pull this off. Now, this rain gauge on the inside of here, there's gonna be a zip tie that comes attached to keep this from moving back and forth. You want to make sure that you cut that, so that way when you install it, your rain gauge is working properly. So that way when it feels, it's moving back and forth. It's able to be sensed. Next, you're going to take your U-bolt, slide it through this back side, and then it'll poke out the side here. You'll need this metal bracket here, and you'll need 2 nuts and 2 lock nuts, and your 7/16 wrench. Like we said before, when mounting this, since it's got anything to do with solar, if it's detecting anything solar related, so your solar panel or your UV cones, at the top here, they need to be facing south. All right, the only difference with this, we're not snugging it directly up with our anemometer here, because we're going to need to put our antenna extension pole is going to be mounted somewhere in this general area here. So you want to make sure that you leave 7 to 10 of these holes free and open. Put a lock washer and a nut. Same thing on the bottom side, and then tighten it down. Again, we want to go tight, but not too tight where we're cracking this plastic on here. Just enough to where it doesn't slide up and down on the pole. That's everything for now. All right, next component we're going to talk about is our field data manager control box itself. Again, it's marked here as enclosure mounting for the hardware. You have your 2 nuts, bolts, and the washers that come with it. You can go ahead and prep those. Pull a lock nut off, or lock washer and a washer off. And this will be facing east and west along with your antenna mounting bracket. You just line these holes up. A washer, lock washer, nut. Again, washer, lock washer, and a nut. And then tighten it down. That's it for your control box. All right, next we're going to talk about mounting our solar panel. I've already grabbed the hardware bag labeled solar panel, and I've prepped my bolts and washers and nuts for mounting the solar panel. So again, anything solar related faces the south of the pole when you're assembling it. Again, it goes washer, lock washer, and nut. And tighten that down. Washer, lock washer, and a nut. 9/16 wrench, socket, and ratchet. That's it for your solar panel. All right, next thing we're going to talk about is connecting some of our wiring harnesses and our cable coaxes for our antennas to the control box. When we do this, we just want to make sure we open up our control box and leave your battery unplugged from the power module itself until you're ready, until the FDM is fully installed and you're out in the field ready to turn it on. We don't want to turn this on prematurely if we're inside of a steel building or underneath trees that might impede the signal from satellites to the system, because you'll run the risk of draining that battery down and causing issues later on down the line. So we want to make sure that the system is completely built and it's a nice clear day and you're out in the field ready to turn the system on before you plug this battery in. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about connecting these coaxes and wiring harnesses to the control box. If you notice here, you have two cable coax grippers here. These are for your cellular antennas and your antennas that are talking to your wireless field soil probes. And then you have these ports here which connect to wiring harnesses for different components on the actual FDM itself. If you notice, they're all different pin counts. Some are male end, some are female end. And the reason this is done is so when you're plugging these components of the FDM in, you'll notice that all of them are different, so you can't get confused in which port it goes to. It can only go to one. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start. So I'm starting with my solar panel here. It's just a slight twist on. It's not over tightening because it's just a twist connect. Next, I have my weather station. And I like to bring these wires all up on the one side of the pole because we're going to go ahead and zip tie all these wires once we're done and dress it up neatly so it looks good. Pause it. All right, continuing on. Next thing we're going to do is I'm hooking up my solar panel. So I'm looking for the 3-pin port. It's right here. When you find it, it only goes in one way. Like I said before, you push it up and it's just a twist with the fingers. You don't want to over tighten it down because all it is a twist connect. Next is our weather station, 2-pin. Rain gauge. Manometer. And our cellular antenna coax cable. So our cellular antenna, which is the white antenna, will connect to the communications board, which also has a white mounting bracket for the cable port, the coax port. So you want to make sure when you're putting this coax cable in there that you're putting it on straight so it's not be difficult at times to get it to be positioned correctly, and then once you get it, you'll see it screws on nice and easy, but you'll just hand tighten that down, and that's how you correctly install your cable coax. We're prepping our antenna extension pole out here on the road before we get out in the field. It's a little easier to prep this first. So the first thing I did is I took my cable coax wiring harness that came with the wiring harness bag, and I slid the cable coax all the way down through this extension pole until that piece is at the end. I left my adapter up towards the end of my extension pole, and then this black piece right here, you're going to have to prep your antenna. You're going to slide this black piece down over to silver, because you're going to need something stable so that you can push, because it's tight when it goes down on there. And basically all that does is that's going to create the seal with inside the fiberglass extension pole and hold that antenna in there. So next we're going to mount our coax cable to our antenna itself. Again, we want to make sure we get a good straight thread on there, just hand tight. Once it's on there, it's going to come with this tape here. And the tape goes over your connection. And you'll slide that down into the extension pole itself. That's it. That's all you gotta do for prepping your extension pole prior to installation. All right, so I've already pounded my mounting stake into the ground. Before I did that though, I got my cardinal direction. I know which way is south. So I pointed one flat edge of this mounting pole in the south direction. And then as I was pounding this down in the ground, I made sure that my mounting pole was plumb all the way around. This is important for installation because it's got to be level and plumb when you install it so that your rain gauge gets appropriate readings. So I'm plumb. I got about a foot out of the ground. My mounting pole is good and it's installed. Next thing I'm mounting to my mounting post is my extension pole, and I'm doing this from the ground level because once I insert this mounting post into the mounting pole, it's going to be too high up in the air for me to mount this bracket. So I just start by, it's pretty cumbersome when it's down here, but when you're working by yourself, just got to get at whatever angle you can, get this mounted on. Next thing I want to do is extend it. And then I'm going to pick it up and install it onto the mounting post. Again, this can be pretty cumbersome lifting this up by yourself, so it's best to have 2 people for whenever you're installing this out in the field. Again, when I put this mounting post down to the mounting pole, I made sure that my solar panel and my weather station were facing south. All right, now we have our mounting pole mounted inside our mounting post. And that's it for now. All right, next we have to connect our coax cable to our control box. It's going to come up through the other cable coax gripper. It'll be the top board. Again, you want to make sure when you're tightening this down, you want to make sure it's threading on evenly. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plug in my battery pack to my power module. It's on the bottom link here. And I'm not going to turn it on just yet. I'm going to wait till I have everything zip tied up and ready to go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my rain cone back on my weather station. When you're putting this on, it can be a little cumbersome at times. You just want to make sure that there's a slot. You'll feel these little pieces here. You'll feel it slide down in. Just like that. So now that's mounted. Then I'm going to grab some zip ties here and I'm going to clean up all of our cable extensions and coax. Our wiring harnesses and our coaxes. Sign on. Obviously, if you're an installer and you're out installing this, you'd want to put the sign facing towards a road or where people are going to be able to see it from. But just for this purpose here, this video, I'm going to stick it on the front here so we can see it. You don't have to tighten these down. Just hand tight is fine. It's not holding anything but the sign. After I do that, I'm going to make sure that my solar panel, there's going to be a graph that you can reference. But our solar panel, depending on where you are geographically located, there's a certain degrees that this solar panel has to be angled at so that it gets the appropriate amount of sun time a day to charge this battery. For here, we're just going over just a brief thing, but if I was setting this up permanently, I would see for this area it's 60 degrees. I'd put you can download on your phone that has apps or incline meters. You can just set your phone on there and it'll give you what your what degrees your panel is setting at. So for this area here is 60. Once you've mapped that out, you put it on here, you've ensured that it's at 60 degrees. You just tighten down your brackets. And that'll keep your solar panel in place. Now that our whole field data manager is installed and it's ready to go, this is when I see I have clear skies. Now I'm going to turn my system on. To do that, all I'm doing is I'm coming over here to my power module, ensuring that my battery is plugged in. It is. Now all I'm going to do is flip it into the up position. Down towards the ground is off, up towards the sky is on. And it's going to start going through its boot up process here. And then once it's ready, I'll show you what to look for on the app itself. But for now, that's it. Searching for LSN 879. With this initial check that we're logging in here for, we're just checking to see if our solar panel is charging our battery, and we're checking to see if we have GPS connection. All right, so we're in. We can see that our battery is at 11.32 volts. That's good. our solar status. It's charging, that's good. GPS is calibrated, and the last GPS calibration was 1 minute ago, so that's good. There's some other information on here for installation purposes. You can see your network ID, when the last time it was connected to the network, which was about 2-3 minutes ago for us. So there's some good information on here, but as of right now, we can see that our field data manager is communicating with our network. So we're going to leave it at here for now, and we're going to start working on installing our WISP2. On installing our wireless intelligence soil probe version 2. First components we're going to work with is our node case and our battery case. So we're going to attach these two components now. Whenever you're putting this on, you don't want to put it extremely tight because you want this to be able to move freely back and forth. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a second. So we want it to be about that tight to where it'll still hold, but you can move it back side to side. All right, from there, we're going to put our fiberglass mounting pole, attach it. We need our, this piece right here, sorry. Set.
I'll do this one again.
Alright, now that I have my my node case, my battery case attached with the bracket, I'm going to put my mounting pole into the ground for my soil probe fiberglass pole. Pound it into the ground to where that white sticker's at. Your fiberglass pole slides down over to the stake, your mounting stake. Mount your soil probe, or your node case and your battery case. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install my soil probe. You'll pound it all the way into where the silver is flush with the ground. One really important piece of information to pay attention to whenever you're putting this wiring harness on to your soil probe and your node case and battery box. So what we have to do is we need to make sure that we are lining up. You have a guide right here, a little nipple piece of plastic sticking up, and then you have the same deal here. You want to line these two up. You'll see on the inside of here that these pins have to be lined up correctly to go on. You can, if it's not lined up, you can still push it into here, but your battery won't have a circuit, so no battery power is going to go to that soil probe itself, so you won't be reading anything. So you want to make sure that you're lining these lines up, and you can feel it once those pins are going in the correct way, and it just snaps in just like that. Same deal up here. Make sure there's no dirt in there. It's going to connect to this one right here. Sorry, this one here. And again, you won't be able to mess that up because it has two different ends. Connected. Next thing I'm going to do is connect my battery box. All right, I'm connected there. Clean up my wiring harness. Now to know if this has power, if you move this side to side, you can hear an audible beep. You might not be able to heard. You might not have heard that through the phone, through the camera here. But when you move this side to side, there's a slight audible beep that you can hear. That's how you know that it has power. And then from here, I'll walk you through getting into the app and seeing if your soil probe is working. All right, now we're going to be logging in via Bluetooth from our phone to our wireless soil probe itself. So we'll hit the search button. Remember, to activate that, all I did was move that control case or node case side to side, and I waited for that audible beep, and that let me know that I have power going to my soil probe. I'm going to connect. 702 is the device number. All right, now I'm in. From here, we want to make sure where it says battery status, where it says 3.61 volts, we want to make sure if this is a fresh install that we're, whether we've brought it out for the second year, third year, whatever it is, once you're at the start of installation of this product, we want to make sure that our volts say 3.3 volts or higher. As you can see, we have good GPS calibration. The latest, last time it had calibration was at 12:15, about 2 minutes ago. So everything we needed to see from here right now, we can see. Now we're going to log onto the portal, and we're going to see if we are getting any type of information from the soil probe, any soil probe readings, and then we'll check also our FDM for readings also. All right, one thing I forgot to talk about, adjusting also once we mount this. Once you have this upright, you'll notice here on the inside of this is a plumb bubble. You want to make sure that your bubble is close to being plumb inside that circle, which is this is pretty good here. Also, you have plumb bubbles up on top of your, these are for UV and solar, these sensors right here. And to level these out, to plumb these out, all you need is a Phillips screwdriver, and you'll twist these or loosen these until your bubbles that you can see right there are plumbed up, which is what I'm gonna do right now. All right, my system's all plumb now. I'm gonna stick my rain cone back on. All right, system's back fully installed now. Everything's communicating online. Everything is fully put together. So now we'll talk about taking it out of the field once we're done for the season. So when we go out to retrieve our solar probes, the first thing we want to do is we want to disconnect our soil probe, and we want to disconnect our battery case from our node case. Let me pull these apart. Pull your stake up out of the ground. Now to remove your soil probe, you're going to use your slide hammer You'll take this nut off of the top of your soil probe. Screw your slide hammer down onto it. And that's how you remove your soil probe. This is how we'll store it too. Just make sure everything's unplugged so the batteries don't drain. And remember, the next time you go to install this for the following seasons, change out your batteries to fresh batteries.